Alrighty. Well, it is time to get my keys back. Spending some. So let's go ahead and immediately get back to some keys because I think I went down below 275. Sounds weird that it's not very good, but indeed, you know, it just depends on how you play. Beer, yeah. But yeah, I honestly, should be reducing the amount of time I spend. But I also collect blue. I usually pick up blues and Death's Breath and stuff. Now, granted, granted, I don't use sages past the first week because I don't actually like to swap things in my follower. I just leave it as it is, whether it's GR or not. I just leave it as it is, and I still get reasonably decent amount. My Death Breath is at 13k. This is Torment 16, but of course, if you're on hardcore, then you practice gradually to play higher. I did one season to hardcore, but I was also carried method, and then however I wasn't loot shared, so I had to get my own loot and gamble my own stuff as well. But I ended up doing speed GR 90s all the way to like Paragon 856 or something, and then I stopped playing it because it's kind of just boring. You basically do lower than usual unless you have the gear for it. So like in hardcore, you really just play the bare minimum until you get enough backup gear, and then depending on how you want to play it, you play the backup gear for your speeds in case you get disconnected. So if you have a bad connection by default, then you don't really want to use your best gear necessarily all the time. So there's hardcore method to doing that. And when I play my GR pushes, even in softcore, I generally don't want to get procced or even don't even want to get procced the cheat death at all, if possible. Because I treat each GR, especially pushing, very seriously. So it's not like softcore, I'm just gonna push my damage out like insanely unless I get shield pylon or like I'm like stressed for time. Then I push the limit of the character, but I don't push the limit of character like most people do. So my style is more hardcore style for softcore because I come from Diablo 2 as well. And since I got better internet after going, you know, uh, after ADSL in Shanghai, as well as, coming to the US for, the to study and the internet, because at the end of the day, I used to play from Singapore to US West on Diablo 2, and I couldn't play hardcore like that. So I was also late to the hardcore scene because of connection limitations, right? But I did play online since 1.03 Battle.net back in Diablo 2. So I'm I'm a style of player that even for softcore, I generally play as though it's hardcore to a certain extent, right? Because the character has died. That it's that's a big factor already. Hey Harbinger, oh thank you for the raid. How are you doing? How's everyone doing? I'm just doing really slow key farming right now. Probably should go a little faster. How was your gaming today? I'm working back on my keys. I mean, it is 269 earlier before I started. I don't really want to go below 275 last night, but we did. So I'm just getting keys at my own pace, of course. Not the speed keys way, as per usual for people who know me. And for people who don't, yeah, I take my time. Such as for jail, I also full clear jails. There are some maps that I full clear, such as Southern Highlands, Fields of Misery, stuff like that. I'm not just pool hunting each map strictly, so it might be very different from most people. Well, there's the pool, and there's the pylon that I moved away from. Yesterday I got my god. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. Well, it's probably yesterday or the day before. Yeah, it's yesterday morning, I think, or afternoon. I got my uh yeah, it was late morning. I got my God gloves primal. So this weekend I actually intend to push the God DH ever since my 116 no augments back then. Splendid. It's a lot of keys. So as Sarah's been introduced, I'm enjoying the season. It's definitely a fresh change, especially I did start out with well, I actually jumped straight to Shadow uh at the beginning. I actually didn't even have this strafe multi-shot like fully set up in the beginning. I actually have got DH as my key farming like at one point after I finished setting up the Shadow straight away. So I didn't actually use my Hadric's Gift at all for the DH. I went straight to Shadow in the beginning, and even for my pushing, I went no generator right off the bat, right out of the gate, from GR90 onwards, and that was back, mid 27th August. Um, I went no generator since then already. I didn't really test it in the PTR or anything, but I knew that the no generator version was uh possible, so that's what I did from since second mid second day pretty much. Um, I so I like the season. It's basically more refreshing because I'm a fan of God DH and I'm a fan of the elusive ring. So when we talk about elusive ring and the no generator, it basically makes sense. As my kind of playstyle, I love the elusive ring. Like when I play God DH, my God DH pushes. I don't actually use COE until I need COE. So like last season, I only started using COE at like 126. So I pushed like, between the 120 to 125 last season. I didn't think I need COE, so I didn't. But there are some other seasons where my 120 felt really difficult, so I did end up using COE for like one tier, and then as soon as I got another upgrade, I went back to elusive ring. And the reason why I went, like, in terms of the 120, that one season, why I went to COE is because um I normally also push to certain lower, like, 120 to a lot of people might be really high, but to certain people might be really low. And so my idea of pushing those quote unquote lower GRs is also to do one shot clears. So it's not fishing, but it's one key. You use one key and do it right then without the max damage output. So I'm using elusive ring in the cube. I'm not using COE, but I have to one shot it anyway because it's quote unquote easy. If you, especially if it's your main class and build, you should be able to do it within one key with whatever you're given. And so, like, based on that, right, I have to get it done. So, like, this season is also really enjoyable because it's refreshing from God DH. I've been playing God DH since season 21, and is it the Shadow Boots that I need? Nope. Still not ancient with all res impel. Um, so the strafe impel is like a half God DH in a way, but more, and also brings back that uncapped hungering arrow kind of feel to it. So it's really refreshing. So I really enjoy the season. And I also enjoy the season because I did no generator pushing all the way to 135 done. I my intended goal was 136. Like before I even reached like the mid 130s with no generator, early Paragon wise, my goal was like, under 1600 to like 136, because if Shadow Impale is up there in the tier list, you can actually do it. And then since I started no generator, straight instead. But I accomplished to 135 with no generator, so I enjoyed the season because I actually showed myself something that people use for speeds generally. So I love elusive ring. So I usually showcase what elusive ring is capable of doing. It's kind of like, you know, expanding upon why I love elusive ring. It's like if you're a barbarian main, or even a wizard main, right? The rings that are comparable to the elusive ring are like the Halo of Karini. Well, not even Halo of Karini really. At the end of the day, Halo of Karini is weaker, like much weaker. Because unless you get the Storm Armor proc all the time, first, you generally don't get the reduction at all. But it's more like Band of Might, right? So if you like Band of Might and you kind of use a lot of Band of Might, I don't see why you wouldn't like Elusive Ring. So okay, I'm not doing that. So like I love a season that you can show the use of elusive ring to like to its potential. This season is my highest so far. Season 22 it was 136 on God DH for season 22, and then this season so far it's 137, almost 138. So this season is my highest so far. Okay. Yeah, I do like 120 is like what I usually do for like my speeds and stuff. But yes, eventually you'll get there. So if you're using Shadow Impale, like, eventually your gear can easily do. Yeah, I know you main a Z bar. You've mentioned that. But honestly, at your, especially if you're using Impale, at a certain point, um, your 110s, okay, the problem with the 110s while you are speeding through it, you're using too many keys for not much gain. Okay, that's one. The other is your hatred. So at some point, if your damage goes up by like another 100k, let's say, for example, or you get a really good upgrade, then you should be doing like, I don't know, 115, 116. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fine. If you don't have any hatred issues, that's fine. I I can have hatred issues even for like a 115, especially if I get a power pylon. Well, I mean, again, I also play the usually I play no generator for speeds. I only play the generated version if I'm working on my Whisper of Atonements or pushing. So anything to do with FNR is never for speeds for me because oh wow, okay. Yeah, I can show you after this one. So whenever you're using FNR, because it has 125% multiplier, you really should focus on um, FNR specifically for either you're pushing your gems or you're pushing. Now, of course, in the beginning, if you get lucky with focus and restraint, or if your focus and restraint are the lucky drops, then yeah, you can use those. But if you're saying to use focus and restraint because you need the damage for speeds, that's not it. So there's a difference. So like if you get lucky with like let's say you get primal, focus and restraint primal usable, that's fine. You use it for that reason, that's okay. But at some point if you're using it for damage for speeds, now it depends on what speeds you're doing. And if you're doing like let's just give an example. If you're doing 115 speeds with focus and restraint, you're actually doing too much work for very little. When I say too much work, it means that there's no reason for you to need a generator for non-pushing content. Otherwise, the node generator should not ever exist at all, because focus and restraint, it's definitely stronger. There's no question about it. But if we're talking about speeds, well, yes, the more damage you have, you clear faster, right? But then again, let's just say some God DH build is viable, just like God DH doesn't have to use Yangs at all, right? Yeah, give me one sec. So let's just say God DH, for example, even Gears of Dreadland. Gears of Dreadland, people love to use the Yanks recurve for the cost reduction, but you can actually use your pushing gear and just change Vengeance to Seath, and you can still do T16 relatively okay. So there's no reason to use Yangs just because you want. This is decent. I'll not salvage that this time. Last time I kind of mis misclicked, but it wasn't an ancient anyway. So now I have more health pool. Okay, should just put the jams and then save. I don't have to touch it. I mean, it's only 2 discipline, and I'm not pushing with it necessarily. I actually like default roles. And then for the guardian no gen, I also like vaulting, and vault came from the original impale because of the belt, the chain of shadows belt. So I like vaulting more. Smokescreen is good if you're playing with more people or if you're pushing, depending on what you're using. But if you're doing speeds, for example, um, I don't actually like smokescreen too much, and it's because if you accidentally mistime it, grotesque explosions are bad. Um, the If you already use your smokescreen reactively, you're not out of the situation yet, and then if you are almost out of the situation, you might pop up a little too soon too. So then you have to press it again, but by then you might have already gotten hit. So I don't actually like smokescreen. I only like smokescreen if I know the situation is okay. Oh, there's the gold chest. There we go. I like that when that happens. So when my favorite thing about the resplendent chest is when it does that. However, if by chance of doing split bounties, I prefer that not to happen, because that usually means that people clicked the resplendent in the level 2 area, and I don't get to go to the level 2 area unless I actually go there myself. So I prefer not the resplendent to drop anything, like most of the time, right? Most of the time when you play the resplendent chest, you don't get anything. Well, that's a good thing, because then you don't miss out legendaries. But if you ever always get legendaries off of resplendents, that's actually how many you missed. And for a Diablo game, to me, aside from Diablo 2, at the end game where you're getting trying to get to 99 or something, but in Diablo 2, because your inventory is usually pretty filled with like charms and stuff, so by that logic, if you're already EXP farming, you're not going to loot anything based on your inventory usage for charms and stuff anyway. But if your inventory is, you know, logically 100% empty all the time, Diablo game to me is more about looting. So if you're not looting, um, even to salvage, more or less, to me, is you're not actually playing a Diablo game. They might as well give you the option to turn off drops. Because what's the point of your inventory space, right? Oh, this is so cute if it's ancient because it gave the default reduce elite damage. 56, 10 cooldown. Oh man, the min max is so nice, but it's a 56. That's so sad. This could have been a good dawn, but it was a 56, and I got to spend. Come on, boots today maybe. I highly doubt it. One of 19, two of 38, four of 87. Oops. Yeah, so if you're not looting anything, they should just let you turn off drops or like filter or like just give us a filter, right? You know, only show us the amulets and the jewelry that you need or belts or any one box items. You might as well have a filter, just like most of the other games. Because at the end of the day, um, depending on where you're at, right? I've mentioned this before. Depending on where you're at in paragons and gearing, so a lot of the times is the three and clear or whatever, right? That thing that is a considerate thing to do for people, the two and clear or three and clear, right? But that doesn't make any sense depending on where you're at, because if if you are at the spot where you're looting those one box items, or if you're selectively looting, it's non-existent. Because the other method, right, even if the three and clear existed, well, what's the other method to go seven and clear? What is the other method, you